was saying that in the past, we thought almost all leaders were extroverts. That is kind of what people thought, and the literature said, but without a lot of evidence or actually a study of it. And the literature was largely written by psychology professors testing undergraduate students, which is great. As a professor, we have endless supplies of undergrads. But I was interested in senior leaders, men and women like yourself, Tony, who actually led for many, many years. How many were introverts? How many were extroverts? And when I looked at it, it turned out that it's a bell curve, which is the normal population, that about 40% of leaders are extroverts, 40% are introverts, and about 20% were what we call ambiverts. Now, ambiverts may be a new term for many of your listeners, and it goes back to the 20s in the US. A psychology professor invented the term, but it largely disappeared for the last 60, 70 years until a guy named Adam Grant, who's a rock star professor at Wharton, did a research study about 10 years ago. And now I'm popularizing the term, and it's saying is that senior leaders have got to act like an introvert at times and extrovert at other times. And that's what an ambivert is, someone who can act like an introvert at times and extrovert at other times. Now, a key point, Tony, is that about 40% of people like me are extroverts. I'm an extreme extrovert. About 40% of senior leaders are introverts. But it's saying that to be an effective leader, you've got to learn to act like the other because the circumstance calls for it.
Now, maybe just help our audience and make sure we're on the same page. Definitions a little bit, introvert, extrovert, to start with.
So the central idea, it's not about shyness. It's about your response to stimulation. Introverts love people, love being with people, but at a certain point, if they get too much stimulation, they kind of tilt over and go, enough of this. I need to take an introvert break, be by myself, be quiet to recharge. Now, it's interesting with extroverts, love stimulation. And at a certain point, if they spend too much time, so I'm sitting in my office here, I'm writing a book on introverts, ironically, and after a couple of hours, I can't take it anymore. Tony, do you hear the pain in my voice? I've got to go downstairs to the second floor. There was an endless supply of undergrads, albeit I'm teaching, giving grades to, that are happy to see me. And in fact, they've heard this lecture sometimes. They tease me and go, extrovert break? Yeah. But I need to recharge my batteries because I've been alone too long. I've missed the stimulation of being with people, being in a circumstance which lights me up. Right. So I take extrovert breaks as a result. So it's about stimulation. Now, there's an interesting study at Harvard done a number of years ago where they looked at 4-month-old babies and they tested their response to stimulation and then they followed them for decades. And it was a reasonably strong predictor of whether you'd be introverted or extroverted as an adult, as a 4-month-old baby, which suggests it's part of our hardwiring, at least to some degree.
Now, I guess not everyone is 100% introvert or 100% extrovert, right?
No, I mean, it's a bell curve where I'm an extreme extrovert, but there's people a bit extroverted, people are a bit introverted. And it's one trait of a very complex human being. And so, Tony, we could say that you're an extrovert or introvert, but you're also a man, you're, if I might, over 50, you're a former politician, a leader. If we asked your family, they'd say, boy, Tony's so much more complex than those few descriptors. So it's something we recognize the complexity of human beings. And I'm overly excited about this topic as I'm studying it, but it's an interesting way to look at people that can help me work more effectively with them. But there's a lot of other things I've got to consider as well.
We've got about 30 seconds before the break. We'll probably have to continue this discussion after, but just start us on why ambiverts are better. What makes them a better mix?
Well, they're not better. What I'm saying is it's part of our hardwiring, so it's all fine. God made us that way, if you would. But it's saying that as an extrovert, I need to act like an introvert at times to be an effective leader. And if you're an introvert, you have to act like an extrovert at times to be an effective leader. Now, if you don't want to be a leader, that's fine. But I'm saying if you want to be a leader based on 450 interviews, you need to act like an ambivert, but recognize who and what you are naturally.
We're going to come back to this topic right after the break. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.